Well, multiple states held primary elections yesterday with the results that included voters in South Carolina, listen up, rejecting state senators who blocked pro-life legislation. And they're sounding the alarm in New York, where anti-Semitic comments from Congressman Jamal Bowman were among the reasons leading to the first electoral defeat from a member of the squad. Well, joining me now to discuss this and other results from yesterday is FRC Action Director Matt Carpenter. Matt, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Great to be here, Tony. Thanks for having me.
So, we've been told here since 2022 that standing for life is a liability. That's not what we saw in South Carolina.
No, Tony, you mentioned the importance of defending the faith, and I would say if you were on the pro-abortion side or you were an anti-Semite last night, you had a bad night from the election results that we saw. Last night in South Carolina's Senate runoff election was actually the third pro-choice, pro-abortion Republican in the South Carolina Senate to go down. A few of them had filibustered a legislation that would have protected unborn life in South Carolina from the moment of conception. And they went down to pro-life challengers, all three of them, one of whom was in the House, the South Carolina House, and actually voted for that legislation on the House side. So South Carolina Republican primary voters sending a very clear signal last night that they're not going to put up with pro-abortion activists.
So let's get into that a little bit, because the point that we've been making, for instance, in the party platform that's going to be discussed here in just a couple of weeks in Wisconsin, there's an effort afoot to remove or weaken the pro-life plank. And by the way, folks, I need your help on that. Text LIFE to 67742 so you can help us weigh in with your delegates to the platform. That is from your state. What we have said all along is that pro-lifers work for candidates and for movements that reflect their values. Mm-hmm. That's what happened in South Carolina. Pro-lifers turned out for these challengers against Republicans who may have been right on economic issues, but they were wrong on this issue.
That's exactly right, Tony. Pro-lifers showed up. There were pro-life organizations on the ground knocking on doors, getting out the vote. They won close elections, right? And I'm sure you remember when you were running, a ground game can make all the difference there. You have door knockers out there spreading the pro-life message, getting pro-lifers out to vote. That made the difference in close elections. One of the pro-abortion Republicans went down by a 65-point margin. So I don't know if she did something above and beyond, but it's clear, I think, the Republican base wants that pro-life contrast. They want their voices represented in support of life with their representatives.
What we've seen, and I think Barack Obama was the first one to understand this and carry this out on the national level, that in today's political world, our nation is so divided, the parties very divergent in their views on these issues, that every election is a base election. It's about the intensity, and that's actually a term that's used by pollsters to show where's the intensity, the enthusiasm level. And when there's clarity on the issues, like there was in South Carolina, that creates that intensity for people to engage, not just go and vote, but to knock on doors, make phone calls, and talk to their friends.
Yeah, exactly right. You have to have that contrast. As you point out, in 2012, we saw that split. Barack Obama capitalized on an active Democratic base to deliver majorities in Congress for him, to win re-election. And so I think conservatives, Republicans need to take that lesson to heart as well and look at the pro-life issue as a motivating factor for their base.
Not to mention it's the right position.
Absolutely.
What else did we see last night?
Yeah, so we had primary elections in New York as well. All eyes were on Bronx and Westchester County, New York, where New York's 16th congressional district had a Democratic primary. Two-term squad member Jamal Bowman went down in defeat, and generally incumbents have a 94%, 95% win rate. They almost never lose, and if they do lose, it's a close election. Well, Bowman went down by almost 20 points. He went down by 17 points. That is a sea change there. So in dark blue, metropolitan New York, Democrat voters sending a strong message to, I think, their party, saying we're fed up with pro-Hamas, anti-Semitic members representing us. So it was good to see Jamal Bowman, I think, send that message and go down in defeat. Hopefully others in the squad take note.
Is that being noticed nationally, that the pro-Hamas, anti-Israel message is a liability for Democrats?
It is. We saw that crop up also with Summer Lee in a Pittsburgh area district in western PA. She ended up winning by a very close margin, but that issue also cropped up there. I imagine it'll play out elsewhere as well.
I know also in Colorado, Lauren Boebert won her primary.
That's right.
What else should we be watching for next? What's on the horizon?
So end of July, you've got Arizona primaries. Tomorrow, you have the presidential debate, and then the RNC convention shortly thereafter. So there's a lot coming up in the next few weeks on the election side and on the party side as well for your audience to pay attention to.
Well, and it's a reminder to make sure you're registered to vote.
That's right.
And there's resources available for those that will be voting at frcaction.org, right?
That's right. And we have voter guides. We'll have our legislative scorecard there, and we'll have our party platform comparison after the parties convene and assign their platforms.
And hopefully we'll have some very stark contrast to make between the two parties.
That's right.
Matt Carpenter, thanks for stopping in.
Thanks for having me, Tony.